Hey guys, and welcome back. I'm Seiben here for the Aether Hub, bringing you more Amonkhet spoilers. This is a big one for today's video. Our first god on Amonkhet has been revealed. And no, it's not a spell or enchantment, just a standard creature. Bummer. It's Hazoret the Fervent, the red or Jackal god. 5/4 legendary creature god. Interesting. 4/3 generic and a single red. It has haste and indestructible, fitting for a god, but can only attack or block so long as you have one or fewer cards in hand. Tap 2 generic and a red, you can discard a card and have Hazoret the Fervent deal 2 damage to each opponent. So for our first god, I'm a little disappointed. Hazoret seems to be setting the tone for the rest of the gods, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Obviously, if all the gods are indestructible, they'll be super powerful, especially at this stat line to cost ratio, so hamstringing them with conditions is gonna be necessary. Hazoret here can't attack or block unless you have one or less cards in your hand, and that's a pretty big restriction. At least she has a way for you to get there built right in, and the fact that she has haste means as you play her, you could meet the requirement and bash in aggro style right away. Unfortunately, if you play Hazoret and don't meet the requirement to attack, I think it really slows the card down and takes away one of its most important aspects: speed. But hey, this is the same thing that was done to the Theros god, so how is this different? Well, rather than having a static effect, Hazoret has an activated ability which I'm not sure fits with a red deck in standard right now. Sure, the 2 damage to an opponent is okay, but it can protect you, and you won't have enough cards in your hand to straight up kill an opponent. I really wish this could target creatures as well, but maybe that would be a little too OP. Of course, you probably don't want to ditch your entire hand, because having only Hazoret is a recipe for disaster. At least madness is still a thing in standard, and maybe this will make it extremely viable, but I'm not 100% sold on it. If my assumption about Amonkhet is correct, and we're set to see a lot of graveyard shenanigans, then perhaps a red aggro madness card dump graveyard deck may exist, in which case this card will literally be god tier. Maybe if that happens, Lupin Prototype will finally see play. Great idea for a card, but really difficult to pull off. Maybe these two will be future BFFs. My first impression is that Hazoret the Fervent is a super aggressive card that's priced very well for what it can do. Yet, if you're unable to easily meet the requirements, it's kinda a waste. Dealing 2 damage to an opponent's face just isn't a good trade-off for losing your cards in your hand, especially if it's an aggro deck. I will say this though, this is probably one of the best top deck cards ever printed in MTG, no lie there. For standard, I wouldn't put it past a madness deck coming to light or even a more aggressive face deck. As for limited, well, it's hard to say. The stats for cost is off the charts value, but how easily can you dump your hand in a draft? If you get her early and draft low cost creatures for a fast deck, maybe, but in limited it could be more difficult than it's actually worth. Let's quickly compare her to her Theros counterpart, Perforus, God of the Forge. They kinda do similar things. They are both indestructible, both deal 2 damage to the opponent, and neither can attack or block unless a requirement is met. They both even have similarly priced activated abilities, only Hazoret steals the 2 damage, while Perforos does that as well, along with a board-wide buff. To me, Perforos is clearly the superior god. Same price, better stats, easier to make an actual creature in a red aggro deck, and way better card text. Hazoret the Fervent seems to want a different style of deck, one that I don't think really exists at the moment, but could pop up with Amonkhet, at least in standard I mean. Flavor-wise, this card's exactly what I thought it was gonna be, at least key ability-wise. In our first story of Amonkhet, Gideon mentions that he can barely track the god's movement because she's so fast. So the haste is a nice touch. He just failed to mention if he had 2 cards in his hand, then it's basically just a statue. As Mark Rosewater stated, the Gods of Amonkhet are invocations themselves, both in flavor and in masterpieces, so here's the invocation for Hazoret the Fervent. Of course, I hate the font and frame, and I actually prefer the original card's art a little bit more. Anyway guys, there you have it, our first God of Amonkhet. Let me know what you think about this card and the prospects it leaves for the others in the comments below. Do you think it's going to be OP or find a home in standard? If you enjoyed the video and want to support the Aether Hub here on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more awesome MTG content. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time here on the Aether Hub.